Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Hisham Ibrahim, as Gergana presented me. I am the Chief Community Officer at the RIPE NCC, and I will be giving you some updates and highlights from the RIPE NCC and part of the reason why we are here. Yeah. So just a little bit about me first. I tend to get excited when I speak. I was just talking to somebody. I'm an extrovert, so I think as I speak. And when I hear good ideas, I speak faster. But I'm also told that you should speak slower to seem like you're more confident. So you're going to find me going between the two. But anyways, so the update that we have here prepared for you is going to follow the following. We're going to talk a little bit about the priorities that the RIPE NCC has this year and what we're planning on focusing on. The second thing is RPKI. Routing security is a very important topic, and I will highlight a little bit about what we see happening here and would love to hear more feedback from you on it. After that, we'll be focusing a little bit about IPv6 in the country here, but also comparing with some of the neighboring countries. RIPE Atlas, you heard Gergana talking about the measurements and the reports that we produce. We do them using these tools, so it's very useful for us to collaborate with you on hosting them. That way we can provide useful insights. And last but not least, engaging with the community and us hearing from you and you telling us what your expectations are. We are the secretariat to the community, yourselves being the community, so we are here to serve you. So I mentioned I'm going to cover a little bit of the priorities. The slides are a bit wordy, so you don't have to read them all now, but we identified 5 top priorities this year that we wanted to focus on. The first one was being resilient in the face of political and legislative and regulatory changes. It's no secret to anyone, geopolitics these days is a mess. We have a war in our service region. Actually, we have several. We are facing things like sanctions that prevent the world from coming together the way that it was at one point in time. We have a lot more tendency to see regulation coming out of either the European Union, out of Brussels, or in other countries, governments getting more involved in the internet and trying to regulate things. So what we try to do here is make sure that we have a common understanding of the importance of the internet, why we do what we do, and provide factual data to decision makers so that they can make better policies. And we find in that collaboration, we always end up with the results that we would like to see. The second point is secure internet number resources by developing RPKI that you heard me mentioning. Secure internet number resources by developing RPKI and a trust anchor, and I'll be talking about that in a bit. The third one being a center of excellence for data. This is us producing things like the country report, providing the analysis that my colleagues helped me prepare here, whether from the communications team that helped me build these slides or the community development team that Gergana manages, that actually try to get better understanding of what's happening on the ground so that we can provide more useful information, and then we have that feedback loop. And then after that, there are more internal goals for us, which is maintaining necessary levels of security and compliance. Again, this ties a little bit to the geopolitical thing that I was mentioning, that we need to be able to be externally auditable if asked. That way, we can show that the resources that we manage that now have a $ attached to them, the IP addresses go for a cost, that we protect your resources, that we do K-route up to spec. All these things we need to publicly demonstrate how we do them, not just the transparency that we had before, but also be able to, if anybody, whether community, government, or others, comes to us and says, why are you doing this, or how are you doing this, we can easily produce these reports. And last but not least, maintain a healthy organization with engaged staff. It's very important. They are the ones that organize all these lovely things that we do, that they engage with you. So we need to make sure that we have the best caliber staff and that we take care of them. We have more of this in the activity plan. If you're interested, have a look at it. We will be also developing the one for next year to 2024 on the next month. This is why the input that we get from you is going to be very beneficial and valuable for us to plan for next year's activities and what we would like to see. Anyways, the RPKI update, and this is where I'm going to get a bit more excited and speak faster. So, ROA coverage. So, RPKI, like I said, is actually, let me start with this one. So, RPKI is actually a way to ensure that the resource holders are certifiable and linked to the resource. The resources are linked to the resource holder. That way, they can minimize things like BGP hijacks. I cannot claim to have the resources that you hold or manage because I wouldn't have a valid certificate. So it helps with routing security with all the hijacks and attacks that you're seeing. A lot of people know the incident with YouTube being hijacked by Pakistan Telecom, but there's also a lot more incidents since that happened this way. Now, RPKI has both a technical deployment side, but also is needed. It's very easy to get your resources signed. You're going to see this if you haven't done this. We have a routing signing party later, but also it requires everybody to do this because just doing the right thing and not by certifying your resources but not validating, for example, you're still keeping people vulnerable. By not doing certification at all, you're still, and if you do everything right but the others don't, it's a whole link, it's a whole internet. So the faster we get everybody to do RPKI, the better, right? And we can see the numbers here, I'm showing them in the slides, that we actually, in May this year, we were celebrating 2,000 certificates. Before, and since May till now, we've almost doubled that number to around 40,000. So RPKI is definitely taking off. People are doing this. And jumping back to the slide that I skipped, you can easily see, yes, that Bulgaria actually is doing quite well when it comes to signing the resources. Around 83%. It's bigger than the RIPE NCC service region's average, which is around 60. It's larger than the SEE region, the Southeast European region, which we include, I think, Sofia, Bulgaria and Romania in. It's higher than Romania. It's actually doing better than a lot of the countries here in terms of signing. However, like I said, it's not just about signing your resources, it's about doing validation. And the picture changes a little bit when you look into are you validating or not? Because actually, if you look at Europe, Eastern Europe, and Romania, they're doing more on the validation side. And this is based on data that we get from IPINIC that run these tests. Now, we have in the agenda a few talks to talk about this. And if you are interested in this topic more, you will hear from my colleagues. There is a routing security introduction to regional statistics where we give you more insights and more overviews on this from my colleague Gerardo. There is the current developments in routing security, talking about routing security as a concept, not just about RPKI, which is a milestone in that way. I've been told I had the wrong name on the slides. I apologize for that. But we do have the talk, and network security and regulatory practices that will be talking about also what we're seeing in terms of deployment of RPKI. We also have tomorrow the routing, the ROA signing party and advanced routing to talk a little bit about what could be done more with routing security. IPv6 in Bulgaria. So we published a report last year, and in the report it had a few findings. So this is the report that we do by providing these insights through doing the different measurements, the probes that you heard Gergana talking about, I'm going to be talking about in a second. And this report focused a little bit about Bulgaria, Moldova, and Romania. Just with a quick show of hands, has anybody seen this report? Has anybody read this report? No one has. We produced it just for you guys. Okay, one hand, thank you. In this report that we produced last year, you can see here a nice visualization of the networks and how they interconnect and what we see through BGP and how we see Bulgaria connecting to the rest of the internet and the rest of the internet interconnecting through Bulgaria. And we had a few conclusions last year. Last year in May 2022, right? And it was saying that Bulgaria was lagging, Bulgaria and Moldova were lagging behind the average when it comes to IPv6 capacity. However, we were saying deployment by one single provider might make a big difference here. And we've seen this in other countries in the region, like in Romania. Some kind of simulation for the measurements from the authorities might make a big difference here. This is what we put in the report last year. Now, if you, sorry, the clicker takes a second. Or maybe I'm just pointing in the wrong place. So if you look at the numbers now, actually since last year to this year, there was a big jump in Bulgaria. It went from 3 or 4% to 12%. And indeed, as we said in the report, one big player can make a difference. So Vivacom actually started deploying IPv6. And because they started doing IPv6, that's why you saw that big jump in IPv6 deployment here, right? And we do have talks that will talk about this. One from Vivacom that will be talking about the achievements that they've done, how they've actually pushed the numbers, the national numbers up. This will be done today. And my colleague Typhoon would be also giving an overview of IPv6 and security right after that talk. Now, something that I can mention also, that the RIPE NCC offers free online courses on IPv6 fundamentals and on IPv6 security. All you need to do is go to ripeacademy.net and you will find the e-learning academy that we have there that has all these courses for free without you having to pay anything. And if you're interested, you can also get certifications on IPv6 fundamentals and security. If you're a member, you probably have some vouchers to certify them. If you're not, we can talk. But looking at the numbers, so again, the RIPE NCC average is around 19%. This is, I think, all the way to the end user. The SEE region is around 21%. Bulgaria is at 12%, but like we said, there's a big jump already happening. And Romania is around 30%. RIPE Atlas. So the report that I just showed you now is done through a bunch of different data analytics, and we have great data analysts that run this work. They do this through a few platforms, one of them being RIPE Atlas. So RIPE Atlas is a measurement tool. Gergana mentioned a little bit of it. And we are encouraging, as you heard her say, people deploying more of these probes, because if we get more vantage points on the network, then we can have a more accurate view on things. This graph here shows where we have deployment, so like the bigger networks and the bigger ASNs that cover more end users, and if we have a presence in them or not. So you can see, for example, in Vivacom, we do have a presence. However, in Telenor, for example, we seem not to. In A1 is interesting because they have, I think, 5 ASNs. We are in some of them, we're not in others. So it's good if you find yourself on the graph where you are light green and we don't have a presence, that you talk to us, because we would love to have probes on your network. That way, when you produce the next report, we have more vantage points and we can actually produce things in a better way. Today, we have around over 11,000 probes in 5,000 ASNs in more than 169 countries. In Bulgaria, we have around 85 connected probes, which is a decent number, but we have more in other countries. And again, the more vantage points, the more accurate we can be in providing the insights and the analysis that we do. The most wanted ones are the ASNs that are listed here. So please, if you see your ASN, please talk to us. We would love you to walk home with a brand new shiny probe. And yes, we have hardware probes here, but also you heard Gergana talking about the software probes as well. Engaging with the community. Now, engaging with the community is a big thing for us. This is part of the big reason why we're here, right? We are customizing and building this event for the Bulgarian community to better understand and hear from you based on us doing our studies and trying to understand what's happening here. But a big part of that for us to help us understand is you telling us what is happening, what is changing, and how are things different this year from last year. We already saw some numbers jumping. This is where it's very important and valuable for us to get this information, but for us to also share with you what we're seeing in the rest of the service region. We can also share with you our plans and hear from you whatever you would like to hear us do better. And I do believe that we have some time dedicated in the agenda. I think parallel to the RPKI session, there is a session where I believe Gergana, the Community Development Manager, and Jelena, Community Development Officer that's responsible for the SEE region, will be there to engage with you a little bit more and see what we can do there. right? And I think I'm pointing in the wrong place. How to engage. So we do have a bunch of different ways to do this. We have the mailing lists here. If you're not subscribed, please do. Jurgana mentioned the forum. And we have Ripe Labs. I absolutely love Ripe Labs. We produce on a daily basis a few articles, whether we write them or community members write them. There's a wealth of information. I just published something yesterday on it. And it talks from everything from community to technology to deployments to success stories to challenges. If you have a few minutes and you would like to read something interesting, go to Ripe Labs. I'm sure you're going to find something that is interesting to you. Participation at the GM, Bulgaria actually is doing quite well when it comes to this. We see around 48% versus the other percentages that you're seeing, Romania being a little bit ahead. So there is a good participation at the GM. We just had our RIPE meeting in Rotterdam, where we had big board elections. We had 3 board seats that were up for election, but we also had a big discussion about charging schemes and how the membership would like to be charged. The result of that discussion, the vote was we did not change anything, but being part of these discussions and putting your vote is important because it will impact you, regardless of how it goes, if it stays the same or if it goes up. So having a vote in this is obviously something important. I mentioned that we are going into our activity plan for next year. So this is the best opportunity for us to hear from you and actually take this into account when we're planning for next year. And that's what we're planning on doing. And our next GM will be in November, towards the end of November, early December, where we're going to be presenting to the community the budget and the activity plan. So again, this is where you participating will make a big difference. And that's the RIPE meeting. We'll be in Italy, so it's not too far away. And I think Rome is a nice enough city for you guys to make the trip and attend the RIPE meeting for it. And you can hear more about these as we go. We also have other events that might be interesting for you guys, just so that you know what we're doing in terms of engagement. There is the Middle East meeting and peering forum. It's going to be held in Saudi. This is a peering forum. After hearing from people in the region, we understood that peering was one of the more important elements to them because they didn't have exchange points or interconnection. This was a few years back. Now the peering landscape has completely changed, with also some big franchise IXPs coming in, like Lynx and DKIX and AMSIX and others, but also national IXPs jumping up from players there. We're doing something similar in Central Asia, where we also started a peering forum. Now with the geopolitics and the dynamics between Russia and Ukraine, and we're seeing people de-peering or changing their traffic, it is a great time for them to begin to look into their internet landscape and what they want to be doing in terms of peering and interconnection. And I believe that is my last slide. Oh, no, we have a survey running, and this is the last week for the survey. So please take out your phone, scan the QR code. You're going to find them in the corridors and everywhere. This is the biggest survey that we run. We run this every 3 years. We usually get around 4,000 responses for this, and it really makes a big change in the way that we think and plan for the next 3 years. So get your thoughts in there, documented, so that we can actually take this into analysis. It will be very beneficial for us and for you to get your points across. And with that, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm here for them.